What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jason here with the Counterpart Bros. Coming to let you know that the official date has been set for the anniversary episode, and it will be Thursday, April 21st, episode 53. So mark your calendars down, make sure you check it out. A lot of big things planned. And make sure you continue to get us some messages for the anniversary show. And get those to us by Thursday, April the 14th. That way we have time to get it into the actual show. Again, these are just messages to let us know what you thought about the first year of the Counterpart Bros, what you liked, what you didn't like, favorite segments, favorite moments, things like that. Send those to us at counterpartbros@gmail.com or go to counterpartbros.com, click the message link, or call us at 405-877-BROS, or hit the Counterpart Bros pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. You know what it is. Whichever way you want to, hit us up. But remember, when it comes to all things Counterpart Bros, make sure you like us, love us, share us, and follow us. Because if you like us, why wouldn't you?
Welcome back to Counterpart Bros. Jason and I are fresh out the segment discussing the regional impact of abortions in other states since Texas has implemented its almost full abortion ban. In the third segment, we're actually going to cover the UFC, but for not the reasons you think we're going to cover the UFC. There was a story that came out about Cain Velasquez. Jason, I'm not as much in the UFC as I once was a long time ago, but most people know Cain Velasquez for the Extreme Fighting Championships. And, you know, Cain Velasquez was like a big deal. He was a heavyweight champion in the UFC. But the reason why his name was being brought up again is that he is brought up on charges for trying to kill a man who apparently molested a relative of his. And this article is from Cage Side Press. Cain Velasquez was arrested on Monday and charged with attempted murder following a shooting in Morgan Hill, California. Details later emerged that suggested Velasquez had targeted a man accused of molesting a family member of the fighter, only to miss and wound a second individual instead. On Wednesday, the county Santa Clara district attorney released more details in the case, including a host of new charges, including attempted premeditated murder, shooting at an occupied motor vehicle or aircraft, 3 counts of assault with a firearm, 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle, and carrying a loaded firearm with intent to commit a felony. So, the story that comes out from this, and I know that at first some people were looking at, oh, well, because Cain Velasquez was trying to basically avenge something heinous that happened to an underage relative of his, that he was going to curry some favor once this case goes to trial. But from my perspective, all that goes out of the fucking window when, well, number one, I like my vigilantes on the silver screen, not in real life. You know what I'm saying? That's why the average person is not in favor of defunding the police. I don't want every motherfucker on the streets thinking that they can take the law into their own hands. It does not help matters, by the way, that according to this article, that the alleged perpetrator involving the misconduct with the minor was on their way to obtain an electronic monitoring bracelet, and it was a condition of bail anyway. So those are my initial thoughts. Jason, what are some of yours?
So let me paint a little picture here, so people know clearly what we're talking about here. So you mentioned who Cain Velasquez is, former UFC heavyweight champion, defeated Brock Lesnar, if anybody knows who that is. So go with that. But anyway, correct. So unfortunately, there was a gentleman who is the son of a mom who owned in-home daycare. The young relative of Cain Velasquez was someone in the care of this person. While they were in the care of this person in the home daycare, the son apparently molested, again, this relative, among other kids, apparently as well. Kid stated that it supposedly happened 100 times, which that's allegedly. Like you mentioned, individual was charged, went to trial, was released. A part of the bail, whatever, was released. And correct, he was restricted to get a home ankle bracelet so he can just stay at home, not be anywhere near anyone 14 or under. While on his way to get the bracelet or go home to get it there, whatever, I guess Cain Velasquez was aware of this and followed the vehicle on his way to get the bracelet. In the vehicle were the assailant, the man who did the molesting, another female, and the assailant's stepfather. This began a supposedly high-speed chase that took place over 11 miles. And during that 11 miles, Cain was ramming the back of the vehicle with his truck. Both guys had trucks. Cain had a Ford. The other truck was a Chevy or something like that. But then also during this chase, Cain decided to take his legally possessed owned gun and fire it into the vehicle, obviously attempting to hit the assailant. As you mentioned, he didn't hit the assailant. He hit the stepfather, who isn't dead. He's no life-threatening injuries, nothing like that. But again, this chase
that changes everything.
Well, actually, it does. As opposed to, like I said, he's got several charges, which we'll go into. But the big one is the attempted murder, not actual murder. Again, 11-mile chase around the San Jose area, and that's what it is. Cain did this when he was arrested, and that's what we're talking about here. Monday, he had a bail hearing. Bail was denied, so he's been ordered to stay in jail while awaiting trial. The judge basically said, long story short, that he felt like the risk of letting Cain out was too high. Two reasons. One, he felt like Cain would probably try to do it again potentially. And the fact that he risked the lives of not just the people in the car he was chasing, but everyone else. God, ram someone's car, that person can lose control, not to mention shooting a gun while in a high-speed chase. Obviously, you can imagine the danger with that. So, folks, that's the story we're talking about here. And as Terrence mentioned, because he was trying to kill, because he's trying to kill the person who did that molesting of his relative, he's going to curry favor when it comes to people saying, well, I would have done the same thing if it was my kid. I can't blame him. Even Ronda Rousey came out in public saying the same thing. Ronda Rousey, also a former UFC fighter, a new parent. Just had a baby girl, I believe, not too long ago. So, and that's really what this is really about. That, because even before all this, I'm sure you've seen people that you either know, social media saying that basically, like you say, if that was my kid, I would have done this. If this is my kid, I would have done that. Well, here we go. I'll say this. I definitely understand the want to get vengeance for this. Definitely do. My concern for Cain at this point, and shockingly enough, Joe Rogan said the same thing out loud as well, is that I wish he had used his hands for this. And now I know people could say that because he's a trained UFC fighter, his hands could also be deadly weapons as well. But at the same time, because you are a trained individual, you know how to beat somebody up without actually killing them. You know what I mean? So you can actually make a case of, okay, maybe I won't beat his head up or whatever too much, whatnot. But the second you basically try to use a gun in this, there's no other defense for firing a gun at somebody. You only have one intent to fire a gun at somebody. You're trying to kill them, period. So I think that's going to be the most damning thing for Cain. Is the fact that you chose to fire a gun. Rarely the car is one thing, but once you chose to fire a gun, I think that, is not great. And the fact that you didn't even hit the guy you were trying to, that just opened the door for what the judge was saying, is that you didn't even hit the guy you're trying to hit. So i.e. you could have shot and killed somebody else who didn't even have anything to do with this. So I think that's probably going to be in my opinion, the most damning thing for him. I mean, we'll see what happens. Like I said, he's in jail now. I think I saw the next court appearance early April. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, my thoughts on it, Jason. I mean, these are all intricate details. But even if, I managed to shoot I managed to shoot the person responsible for this heinous crime. Okay, let's say you shoot him. Then they, and let's say an innocent family in a fucking minivan 2 lanes away dies a fiery death because you killed the person driving. You're just as bad as the original actor. You're just as much a bad actor then as a person you're supposedly trying to stop.
Yeah. Now, again, now I will say this: I'm not hoping one way or another for Cain in this case. I'm not hoping he gets convicted of this. I'm not hoping he gets away from it per se. Um, now, again, some of this I don't know the guy. Um, obviously, I do feel sorry for the relative that we're talking about who got molested in this. Obviously, but yes, folks, I want to say this: that I actually agree with Joe. I wish he didn't use the gun. Now,
I'm gonna take it a step further.
go ahead.
I wish he just would have let the fucking process play out before I could see if it was a situation where, yeah, we're not going to pursue charges. From the sounds of it, they were pursuing charges.
Well, obviously, I guess we'll have to wait for this to go to trial. Now, obviously, I don't know at what point Cain decided, you know what, I'm gonna cap this dude. You know what I mean? Was it the fact that he wanted to do it all together no matter what happened? Or was it the point of where he was actually let out of jail at all in the first place? Yeah, I agree with you. Charges were still being pursued. The ankle bracelet was going to happen. It's still a thing, I'm sure. But maybe that was the part that set him off. The fact that he wasn't sitting in jail for what he was doing, what he had done. Which is also an interesting point that came up in Cain's bail hearing that happened Monday. And I know it's two separate situations, and I get that, so don't go there. But it is very interesting that, and this is the point that Cain's lawyer brought up, according to a couple articles I saw, is that now the person charged with molesting the child is not in jail and free with his family, essentially, whereas Cain was given no bail and has to be sitting in jail until trial, away from his family. Now, I know what people are probably going to say, including you, and I get that. I know it's two separate situations, but that is an interesting point brought up by his lawyer, the fact that they're just pushing to get bail. You know, if nothing else, why can't Cain get an ankle bracelet and sit at home and be monitored? But yet the guy who did the molesting of a child, granted, it's something, is not sitting in jail. Now, again, I'm not saying one way or another that I agree or disagree with all this, but it's interesting points to bring up when it comes to what's going on as right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna land on whatever point he had or does have. Going about it the way he went about it indirectly undermined it.
How so?
Because now the focus is on, instead of the focus being on the original perpetrator, the focus is on him. You're muted.
Thank you. I think part of that is just because of who Cain is. You know, and honestly, that's the reason why we're even talking about this in the first place. Is because obviously, take Cain out of it. If this would have happened to anybody else, obviously, it's a big deal. But the reason why we're talking about it, to be honest with you, is because it happened to a former UFC heavyweight champion, Cain Velasquez. You know what I mean? That's why it's in the media. It's because of that. Well, let's be honest here. That's why it's in the media. It's because of that. If it was Joe Schmo this happened to, it wouldn't be in the media. It might have been a news story for one day or two, but because it's Cain Velasquez, now it's going to be something that's going to be followed until something happens.
Well, Jason, I'm going to put it to you like this. There's a reason that even there's been a lot of criticism of police chases on the expressway because of potential danger to, bystanders, for example. I mean, there's been cases not involving UFC, previous, retired fighters, where accountability groups have said, hey, why the hell are you chasing this person on the expressway? They kill a family of 5. Is it worth it? Because then it might be a threat to the general public if, God forbid, you know that one of those cars ends up ramming into another car or something like that. So I think it's bigger than just, oh, this is a story because it's Cain Velasquez. It's a story because it's Cain Velasquez, and also what Cain Velasquez did, whether it was in the response to something heinous or not.
Yeah, like I said, man, I know what he did is something that can be talked about. The reason why you and I are talking about it and why it's going to be a media story for months now is because it's him. Now there is I definitely hear what you're saying when it comes to the chases and criticism of that endangering people in the public. But there's a difference here, and this also is probably a damning thing against Cain as well. Is that when police are chasing people on the interstate, at the very least, I understand accidents happen, but at the very least, police are trained to do those things. Obviously, Cain is not, and that's again one thing the judge mentioned when it comes to how reckless it was of what he did. So there is that difference there. Trained people versus Cain, who's not trained in that, trained in other things. Ways that he did not take advantage of when it comes to him trying to act out some vengeance here. So,
Yeah.
Now again, the date set for his next appearance. I'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Not saying this is the OJ case or anything, but yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting fall from grace if he is convicted of all this stuff. And I'm gonna let you go ahead and jump in here real quick because I do want to find. Actually, I found it here. So just so we all know too, again, he's charged with the attempted premeditated murder, shooting at an occupied motor vehicle or aircraft, 3 counts of assault with a firearm, 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle, and carrying a loaded firearm with the intent to commit a felony. Those are all his charges. And keep in mind, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was this in California, by the way?
It was.
Oh, duh, San Jose, duh. Okay, so I think we all know how they are with guns and whatnot in California when it comes to people committing crimes with guns. And he has several charges here, pretty much related to using those guns. Now, I don't know his criminal history when it comes to previous felonies and whatnot. I know a lot of his UFC, a lot of people sent letters to the judge to ideally give him bail to get it out, which the judge did listen to, obviously. So Cain has a good reputation, at least, for being a good guy. A lot of people feel like they're shocked when he did this. They feel like if anybody would have done something like this, would have been a whole laundry list of other fighters to have done this. But again, not knowing all that stuff with his criminal history, I had to imagine being charged with all these counts of gun crimes, not let alone the attempted murder. And let's be honest here, also him bringing a brown person, not a good look. Again, I'm not a legal expert here. I've never been a lawyer, although I do play one on TV. I have to imagine it's going to be a hard road for him legally to avoid all of these charges. Obviously, he's not going to try it, so I can't imagine what his plea is going to be. But I have to imagine jury selection is going to be highly key in the trial for him.
Hashtag. Anyways,
parents, people that don't know him from the UFC. It's just parents. Actually, you want people that know him from the UFC, and those two things are probably going to be key. Is what it is, but it's going to be a hard road for him. I can tell you that.
Yeah, the deck has been stacked, but he did a lot of the stacking on his own.
Fair.
And I'm not even saying he should have used his hands. I'm saying, and I know originally you wanted to approach this from the perspective of a parent. I'm like, from the perspective of a parent, like, at least wait until the fucking trial plays out.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Then go fucking full Charles Bronson, okay? That's what I would say. You know, if the system doesn't work for you, then I can say, okay, now I understand.
Well, that's what I'm saying before. Maybe that's his view of the system didn't work because this guy's out free, not in jail. Now, again, I don't know his mindset other than this is the person that molested my relative, and that may have been the whole point of it. But maybe what set him off that the system didn't work, like what I mentioned, that he's not in jail for what he did. Now, yes, originally, now I'm not saying that's why I want to talk about it because you're a parent, and this is a good aspect of it. But yes, that is an aspect to it that I was kind of curious if you'd have an opinion of it as a parent. If you don't, that's fine. Doesn't make you less of a person or a parent. But to be honest with you, again, I'm not a parent, as people are pointing out to me on this show. That I can probably assume what I might have done if I was a parent, and I probably would have wanted to do some physical harm to the dude. Would I have used a gun? No. And that may be the difference here. Like I said, more than once now. That might have been a difference of him going free. Because if he didn't have the gun, maybe he wouldn't have done all the ramming, he wouldn't have done all that stuff. Maybe he would have tried to get, obviously, if you're trying to use your hands, you want to get closer to the guys. Maybe he would have done some things differently. I don't know.
I think the entire premise about he just should have used his hands is flawed because you're still involving in an encounter where the deck is stacked against you.
Well, keep in mind, he probably didn't care. Though. I mean, at that point, if you're well, first of all, if you're going to that point to try to do harm to somebody, gun or not, at that point you don't care. And the fact that he
this is not about his feeling. It's about the fact that for me, it's about taking the law into your own hands at that point, and basically saying, "Well, shit, I know better than the local municipality." I'm like, yeah, and now you're having to answer to these assholes too.
Well, I know you're saying
that's crazy.
I know you're saying it's not about him. I know you're saying it's not about him caring, but keep in mind, he probably did all that stuff knowing I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this. You know what I mean? Use a hand or a gun, right? Because even if I did something to try to beat the guy up with my hand or a bat, whatever, I know, hey, you know what? I'm doing this in broad daylight. I'm probably gonna get busted for it. I don't care. I want my vengeance. I want him to have penance, and his penance is right here in my hands, right here. You know what I mean? Or gun in his case, whatever. So,
yeah. There is a stark difference though in the charges he's facing versus the charges of the original perpetrator, and to me, that's crazy. Like,
well, obviously that's something he was willing to take because obviously his goal was to kill a guy. He was willing to take it, and the fact that he supposedly, willfully, and easily, if the police not like that, that sounds to me like a guy who knew that, hey, you know what, this is what it is. I knew this was going to happen. I would have preferred to kill the guy. Again, it's not me saying that, it's him, but it's what it is. At that point, if you're willing to go that far, the law, you don't care anymore. You know, it's what it is.
All right. That concludes our segment on Cain Velasquez. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show.